Yes. So good to see your face, Heidi. We just saw you for an hour and a half just a little bit ago, but I didn't get to see your beautiful face.
Welcome everyone. So we're live on YouTube now. We're going to be talking about some incredible stuff today. Today's topic is going to be raising money in real estate, which I think I know for me, when I first started real estate investing, it was a scary idea to go and ask other people for money. And it turned out to be one of my favorite parts of what I do because not only do I get to go out and better my life, I get to go out and better those that I partner with as well. So we're going to teach you some of the tips, the tricks, the secrets, the strategies. We're going to start out basic and we're going to get a little advanced tonight. So you're going to want to stick around for the whole thing. And then we're going to open it up for questions and answers at the end. But as usual, we got a few announcements for you. So we got a couple of things that we're going to want to share that we want you to be a part of and we want you to experience. The biggest thing right now is our quarterly wealth summit. This quarter, I can't believe it's already second quarter of 2023. I don't even remember first quarter. Do you remember first quarter, Maeli? I don't even know what happened to that.
I just think it's
It's
gone.
crazy. We're already in Q2, 3 days into it as well. It's just time's melting away. It's nuts. But so some of you might have gotten a text message from us. For others, this will be the first time you're hearing about it. But we want everybody to be aware of our Wealth Summit. So for those of you who are in our coaching program and are part of that, are students of ours, it's a 2-day Wealth Summit, May 12th and 13th. I did not plan this, so don't blame me for it being right before Mother's Day because I would not have done that. And I'm not sure that I'm good friends with the guys who did plan it. They're amazing guys. It probably just worked out timing wise that we could get our guest speaker to come. But for those who are students, Friday starting 9 a.m., Friday the 12th starting 9 a.m. until 5 p.m., we're going to be doing 2 separate trainings for business mastery from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then at 7 p.m., we have a mastermind dinner with none other than Chris Wilson. If you guys were on the call last week, you got to see Chris talk about real estate. And guys, he just barely scratched the surface. This guy is so knowledgeable about what he knows in real estate after doing it for 40 years. It's going to be awesome to have dinner with him. And then Saturday, we're going to be hearing from him real estate investing mastery training by Chris Wilson all day long, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. You're going to want to be there. So this is a student-hosted event. So we're all kind of pitching in to pay for the venue. If you're going to attend the dinner, it's $50 a person. There are qualifications for that dinner. So you're going to want to reach out to me or Maeli to make sure that you qualify. And we'd love to have you there if you do. And then everybody is invited to the Saturday event. There are qualifications for the Friday events. But all of the trainings combined are $97. And you may qualify to get that for free. So make sure you reach out and talk to us because if you'd like to join us now, the kicker is it's in Idaho Falls. So if you're willing to make the drive with us, we're going to be there bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, ready to learn. And we're excited to hear what Chris Wilson has to say, especially with the market that we're in right now. I can use all the education and training that I can get. So one thing I have learned over the years, I've been investing in real estate for 10 years now, and the biggest thing I have learned is that knowledge is a journey. There's no destination. You're never like, okay, I've learned as much as there is to learn and I'm done, right? And it doesn't matter the topic, whether, whatever it is, real estate investing included, business ownership included, entrepreneurship included. You're never to a point where it's like, okay, I've learned all I need to learn, and I am absolutely done with the learning process. Maeli and I are learning new things every single day, whether that's through trial and error, or whether that is through being proactive about it and going and finding that information before we go out and make mistakes. So anyway, with that said, we'd love for you to join us. If you're interested in that, be sure to reach out. You can reach out to us via the chat in Zoom, via the chat in YouTube, on Facebook, to our cell phones. Whatever way you have to get a hold of us, feel free to do it. We'd love to talk to you. And with that said, let's start our training on raising capital for real estate deals. Now I'm going to start out kind of basic. I'm going to start out with something that probably a lot of you have seen. It's our debt equity blend training. And the reason I'm gonna reiterate that is because it's so important to understand that That strategy has kept me safe in so many different situations. I want to kind of review that and make sure that everybody's kind of on the same page with that debt equity blend training. And then we're going to get into some more advanced stuff. We're actually going to crack into the Renatus education. We're going to hear from Matt Sorensen. He's going to talk to us about how to use other people's retirement accounts to invest in real estate. I don't know if you knew you could do that. I definitely didn't when I first started, but it was one of the things that kind of broke me out of my shell and allowed me to start going out and making some big moves in real estate, was learning how to use other people's retirement accounts. And then we're also going to hear from Whitney Stark, who's going to talk to us about overcoming the fear of approaching people about using their money in your real estate deals. So I know that's a big topic for a lot of people, is how do I overcome what's in here so that I can actually go talk to people, right? So we're going to talk about that today. We're going to cover all that, and then we're going to open it up for questions and answers at the end. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Let's go ahead and get this set up. So let's dive into the debt equity blend. Who here, just shoot in the chat or come off mute, who's seen the debt equity blend before from me or from others? Wade, I know you've seen it. You've seen it 100 times. In fact, you've participated in it 100 times. So I love it. I know Charlotte's very familiar with it. She's participated in it as well. I think for some of you, you've seen it maybe once or twice. Some of you are brand new to it. We got some exciting stuff. So let's go ahead and break in. I'm going to share my screen here. Make sure that those of you on Zoom can see it. Let's see. And then we also want to make sure that those of you on YouTube can see it. Luckily on YouTube I have a monitor so I can tell whether you can see it or not, but I do need a thumbs up from Wade. Can you see my screen? Alrighty.
I can see it.
Okay, perfect. Well, let's jump in and start talking about it. So, in order to do this, we kind of need to set up a little bit of a model here. So we're going to talk about a flip that Maeli and I actually did. This was several years ago. Obviously, numbers have changed since then, but I do love presenting the debt equity blend with this particular flip because the numbers lend themselves very well to understanding the concept. So this was a house we did, I believe, probably 2017, 2016, somewhere in that area. It was 2677 West, Jordan Meadows Lane. I know a handful of you on the call today are from Utah, so you're going to probably recognize the name of that city there. Some of you aren't from Utah. This is just one of the suburbs of Salt Lake City. So, this is just your everyday house. It was on the corner of the street here on Jordan Meadows Lane. Now, here's the thing. Maeli and I do a lot of coaching. We've got a decent brand. We're on YouTube. We've done a lot of public speaking, and people, especially in our local area here in Utah, in the Salt Lake City area, people start to kind of get to know you a little bit, right? And they recognize us as local real estate investors, and we get a lot of people that comment on how they would have done certain deals. Now, this particular deal, we purchased it for $250,000. Our rehab was $50,000 on this house. There wasn't a ton we had to do. This was one of the few houses that I kept the cabinets. We actually ended up painting the cabinets. We added the backsplash to it, new appliances. We added the bar was already there. We added new appliances to it. Refinished the floor, refinished the tile, that kind of thing. It was a 5,000 square foot house, so it did cost a little bit of money to go through and redo, refinish a lot of that stuff. Our holding costs on this house were $10,000. Now, holding costs simply are the cost of owning the property, right? A lot of that is going to be interest that we paid because we use other people's money, right? Some of that's going to be taxes, property taxes. Some of that is going to be utilities. It's just the cost of owning a property. And then our closing costs were $25,000. That's to pay agents and marketing and whatnot. So all in, we were $335,000 on this house, and our after repair value, we sold it for $380,000. And we were able to turn this particular house, this was a little lighter rehab, we were able to turn this one in about 120 days. So our profit on this one was $45,000. Now, I want to see by show of hands who's super excited, or put it in the chat, who's super excited about the idea of learning how to make $45,000 in 120 days in a real estate deal where you use other people's money. I see Wade. Wade's excited. I can see the excitement on Sasha's face. That's pure excitement right there. We're gonna teach you guys how to do this. So I want to show you guys. Oh, yep. I'm seeing some hands. Berta raised her hand. Yep, absolutely. So let's talk about some of this stuff. All right. I want to show you how we structured the money. But before I do that, there's a lot of wrong ideas out there about how to go about using other people's money. There's a lot of wrong ideas about how to do real estate investing in general. Here's the thing. There's a pretty wide road of how to go execute real estate investing. There's not necessarily one set of steps that are the only right way to get this done. There are probably multiple ways to get it done and get it done right, but there are even more ways to do it wrong. Even more ways to do it in a way where you'll get hurt. And with, like I said, Maeli and I have become fairly well known in our local community, and people know what we do, and they want to kind of talk about different ideas. Well, we've talked to enough people that we have, and also I think real estate investing is kind of a popular idea. I think, people watch those HGTV TV shows, the fix this, flip that, that kind of thing. And they think, well, this looks pretty easy. I've been watching it on TV. It looks really easy to do. I think any guy with a hot wife can go make 90 grand on a deal, right? And there's a little more to it than that. There's some strategy that goes into it that you need to understand as you go into this stuff. So I want to dispel some of the myths first before I teach you the debt equity blend. And really, as I've talked to people, I've learned that I've kind of fit them into 3 different categories, right? There's 2 main, and there's fringe ideas, right? But there's 2 real main ways that people do it that they can potentially hurt themselves or just limit themselves. And then there's a handful of ways that I look at how people go out and do fix and flips, and I'm like, yeah, that's a pretty good way to build wealth doing a real estate investing business, flipping houses, right? So we're going to talk about those 3 different types of investors. Let's start with the 2 wrong ways, right? Let's start with the type 1 investor. I call this the move-in investor. This is the person that I think they're not necessarily going to hurt themselves, but they are going to severely limit themselves. And if you followed me and Maeli long enough, you know that we have consistently talked about how real estate investing can just be something that replaces your job. It can take just as much time as your job did, and it can only pay you as much as your job did. So what good is it if all it does is replace your job, unless like you're super passionate about real estate investing and want to do it for the next 40 years of your life? For me, that's not me. I like real estate investing because it pays well, and it allows me to teach my kids principles of generational wealth. And it also introduced me to the thing that I really am passionate about, and that is people that I can connect with, that I can teach these principles to and help change their lives. That's really the part of this that I'm passionate about, is the coaching and the teaching part of it. What we're doing here today, this is the part that I'm passionate about. It's not the bricks and mortar, right? So if all it did was replace a W-2 job for me, I wouldn't be doing it. Now, this first type of investor, this is the move-in investor, right? This is the person that looks at this deal and is like, man, you got some really good numbers here. You made 45 grand in 120 days. That's awesome. But you know what? I think you spend a little bit too much on this rehab. Like, I bet half of that was labor. We could have put 20,000, 25,000 back into the profit margin if I simply would have done the work myself. Right? I would have moved into this place and I would have done the work myself, and we would have had it done in 4 months, and then we just move on to the next one, and we kind of get a flow going like that. Well, I have a few problems with that way of thinking. The first problem is I want you to try an experiment, okay? After this call, after this little webinar here, I want you to go back to your significant other and just try this for me. Say, babe, we have a new business model here. Okay, we're going to move our family into one of these. Now, I know how you love that open floor plan. Look at this thing, right? It's open, it's beautiful, lots of fresh air, lots of open spaces. We're going to move our family into one of these, and we're going to work on it, and we're going to fix it up, and it's going to, by the end of it, 4 months down the road, it's going to be beautiful. And just as it's getting pretty, we're going to sell it and we're going to move back into another one of these. And that's what we're going to do, for the rest of our lives. What do you think? Do you think they're going to be super excited about that, right? Probably not, right? And the idea of living in a construction zone, living like I was talking to somebody who used to do the move-in type of thing, and they're like, yeah, like sometimes the kitchen was in a different room, and sometimes our bedroom had to move 3 or 4 times while we lived there so that we could get the work done. And then we just, as soon as it got to a point where it was functional, they sold it and they moved into another one, and that kind of sucks, right? Like I don't want to be doing that every 4 months. For as long as I'm investing in real estate. Now, a big part of that is the idea of moving every 4 months. That's a little bit unrealistic to me. Like I look at that and I'm thinking, yeah, that might work for like the first like 1 or 2 or 3 of them, but honestly, like after a little while, I'm not gonna want to move every 4 months anymore, and so that timeline's gonna stretch out. Now I'm doing like one every 6 months, and then after a while it's one every 9 months, and then one a year. And we were all super excited about the idea of making the potential profit on this one, $45,000 in 4 months. Anybody more excited about the idea of making $45,000 in 12 months? So if that timeline starts to stretch out, we're not as excited as we used to be, right? So that kind of creates a problem. But I think there's a bigger problem, a bigger limiting factor about being the move-in investor, and that is scalability. Maeli and I are doing 10 fix and flips right now. We do 10 at a time, somewhere between 10 and 12 that we've done consistently through 2021, 2022, and 2023. If our strategy was to move into every single one of them, what's our limit? How many can we do if our strategy is to move into every single one of them? Somebody throw it in the chat. Where are we at here? Yeah, 1, right? Our limit is 1. So it's not going to work. It's not going to work. We can't look. Maeli and I have an attitude about scalability in our business. We compare every new strategy that we take on to the idea of infinite scalability. And some of you heard me talk about this before. If we can't scale it to the moon, if we can't scale it infinitely, then it's not a strategy that we want to take on, because that means it's going to affect the one thing we can't get more of, and that is our time, right? So we don't want to be the move-in investor. Let's talk about this type 2 investor. These are the ones that start to get into the area of, their ideas kind of start to get dangerous. And the sad part is these are the slightly more educated investors. It tends to be the less educated investors that lean towards the move-in idea. There's obviously exceptions to that rule, but it tends to be the less educated investors that move towards the move-in idea. The type 2 investor tends to be the slightly more educated investor, which makes them dangerous. This is what I call the debt investor. Now, these are the people that have like 1 foot dipped into the wealthy mindset. They've read like 1.5 Robert Kiyosaki books, and they think they know enough to go out and risk hundreds of thousands of dollars, playing the fix and flip game. So, they take a look at the numbers here and they're like, okay, yeah, here's how I would run this deal. We only need $300,000 up front because, we got to raise the money up front to purchase it, and then we need the money to remodel it. Unfortunately, Home Depot makes us pay for the goods that we take up front. They won't let us do it after we sell it. But these things, the holding costs, the closing costs, we don't really owe those until we sell the house. So, we only need to raise $300,000. So they open their Google device and they type in fix and flip money, Utah or California or New Mexico or wherever they live, right? And up pops a list of hard money lenders. Now, if you've ever used hard money lenders before, then you know that they have fairly difficult terms, right? I mean, the interest is a little steep. It's like 12%, and usually they only let you have the money for about 6 months. Now, there are exceptions to this rule. I know some really, really good guys who are hard money lenders, who are awesome and have worked with me through thick and thin, but they are the exception to the rule. Most hard money lenders out there, I will tell you from sad experience, most hard money lenders out there are sharks. which means, if you go to 6 months and one day, their attitude is not going to be, just pay me when you get it, right? Their attitude is going to be, we're foreclosing on your house. You're going to get that letter in the mail at month 6, day 1, right? It's that letter in the mail saying we are starting the foreclosure process. Here's your notice of default, and they take the property, and that's part of their business model, right? They're going to assume that a handful of people aren't going to be able to meet that 6-month timeline, and that they're going to be able to take the property over, and they get their profit plus your profit, right? So bonus for them. Now, you might be looking at this and saying, yeah, Mitch, but what's the problem here? Because you said we could do it in 4 months, which theoretically, yeah, you can do it in 4 months, right? I have done properties in 4 months before. But does that mean that I'm always going to be able to do properties in 4 months? Does that mean things like problems with contractors aren't going to happen, or supply chain issues aren't going to happen, or budgetary issues aren't going to happen, or real estate market and economic issues aren't going to happen? All of those things have happened to me before that have caused properties to go longer, or projects, fix and flip projects, to go longer than I expected. And part of being an educated real estate investor is understanding that you don't have control over everything. So let's play around with that idea a little bit, right? So, we all know that we do have control over certain things. We have control over the properties that we choose to engage in. We have control as investors. We have control over the partners that we choose to bring on. We have control over the terms that we choose to accept for our money, right? But there are some things like market conditions that we don't have control over, nor do we have a crystal ball to be able to tell what they're going to be able to do. For example, we're kind of in a funk right now because the Fed's been playing with the interest rates like it's their personal play toy, and we're all the victims of that. Now, I know there's two sides to that story. I know I get what they're trying to do, right? But it's really hurting some investors out there. And none of us have any control over that. We just have to respond to that, or we have to set ourselves up so that it doesn't affect us as adversely. Look, 2008, that's recent history. I would think that everybody on this call probably remembers what happened in 2008, where, some properties got $100,000 haircuts. And as investors, there was nothing we could do to predict it, and there was nothing that we could do to prevent it. And really all we could do is respond to it, right? The problem with the debt investor, this person creates one exit strategy for themselves because of the way that they raise the money. They went out and they leveraged as debt all of the money that they needed to do this deal, thinking, well, we're going to sell it for $380 and we'll profit $45,000, right? But what happens if we go engage in this as the debt investor, if we go engage in this deal today and 2008 happens again? Now, will a 2008-like event happen again? Probably. Do any of us know when it's going to happen again? I can tell you right now, if you've got a date in mind, you're guessing. Because nobody has a crystal ball, right? And the more experience you get in real estate investing, the more you recognize that predicting the market is a guessing game. So any act of God, any act of terrorism, really anything that could happen on a national scale in any way, any act of politics, right, could affect the market adversely. And we need to be prepared for that because we have no control over it. So as the debt investor, these guys have not prepared for it. They have one exit strategy, and that is we have to sell this house for more than we put into it, right? We have to sell this house for more than we put into it. What happens if 2008 hits again and this house gets a $100,000 haircut and it's only worth $280? Well, now what? We can't sell it because we borrowed 20 grand more than it's worth now. And if we sell it, we owe our holding costs and we got to pay for our marketing fees and all that. We would have to write a $55,000 check if we sold this property. And I don't think any of us are signing up for real estate investing because we want to write checks at the end of deals. I think we want to get the checks written to us, right? So we can't sell it. We got some creative minds on the call. I want to see, put in the chat or write or come off mute. Let me know what you think. Like, what are some ideas? What could we do here? What are some options? Come on, I know we've got some creative minds out there. What can we do? We could rent it out, right? I mean, it's real estate. Could we rent it out? Here's the problem with trying to rent it out the way we structured the money. Yeah, Maeli said rent it out, right? Well, she's seen me train on this before, so she knows where this is going. Here's the problem. If it takes us 4 months to repair this house and to get it all fixed up so that it's pretty, we put tenants in there. Now we're at month 5. They paid their first month of cash flow. Now we're at month 5. And, then the next month goes by. Now we're at month 6. The tenants pay their second month of rent. Well, what happens with the hard money here? What happens to our hard money lender that only was going to give us 6 months? Well, he comes in and he's now foreclosing on a finished house that has cash flowing tenants. You're his best friend, right? So he's going to take the house. That solution isn't going to work, so we can't rent it out. What else can we do? How can we get rid of this $300,000 worth of debt that's going to foreclose in 6 months? Any other ideas? Ooh, yeah, Charlotte. I love Micah. Micah says, you're screwed. Yep. Charlotte says refinance. I appreciate that, Charlotte. So here's the problem with the refinance idea. If we take our $280,000 asset down to the bank and say, hey, here's my collateral. It's worth $280,000. Can I borrow $300,000, please? What are they going to say? They're going to say, you're under collateralized. You didn't bring enough collateral to borrow $300,000. We can only give you max $280,000, right? So we've got a problem. And my point here is if we went into this deal only structuring it as debt, then we have only created one exit strategy for ourselves, which when the market changes is no longer an exit strategy, which goes back to what Micah said, we're screwed. Right? We've really backed ourselves into a corner here where we can't get out of it. And this is how real estate investing careers end. Now think about this for a second. In 2008, there were more players in the game than ever before. 2006, 2007, the market's going crazy. People are jumping in left and right because any idiot could buy a house and sell it 6 months later at the incredible appreciation that was happening at that time. But when it changed, what happened to all those people's money? Here's the thing about 2008 and money in general. The nature of money, look, it wasn't like the government sent around dump trucks and all of us brought our cash out and threw it in the dump truck and, the dump truck drove to some field, poured gas on the cash and lit it on fire. Money does not get destroyed. Money transfers. So all of those people who lost money in real estate investing in 2008, it went somewhere. Where do you think it went? It went to the educated investors. It went to the people who understood that they've got to structure themselves correctly so they could weather these bad times. And as soon as the market changed and all these houses went up for sale at a discount, they were the first ones there. It was like real estate Black Friday, right? They were waiting in line, pitching a tent, waiting overnight, and as soon as it happened, they were in and they were buying that stuff on sale. So point being, this is a very dangerous way, and we've all heard that real estate investing is risky, right? This is a very dangerous way to structure money, and this is probably why we all get a bad name, is because a lot of uneducated investors come in and they structure their debt, or they structure their money this way as debt, right? So you don't want to be the debt investor. The third type of investor, like I said, there's more than one way to skin a cat here. I'm going to show you the way that I've found that works really well for me, and the way that Maeli and I structure every one of our deals. But this is the type 3 investor. This is the educated investor, right? So this is a strategy that we use called the debt equity blend. And there's a secret ratio to the debt equity blend. That is whatever the amount of money we need to raise up front. In this case, it's $300,000. $2,000 of that, $200,000 of that we raise as debt. So 2/3, right? 2/3 of it we raise as debt.
Reduce the risk of kidney failure, which can lead to dialysis.
I'm getting some feedback from somebody here. Sorry, if we could put, yeah, thank you. So 2/3 of the total upfront cost I raise as debt, right? So $200,000 I can raise from that same hard money lender, that 12% 6-month guy, right? But the other $100,000 that I need, I'm going to raise as equity. Now, how do I raise it as equity? See, the problem is in school, in middle school, elementary school, high school, we were only taught one way to use other people's money, and that is borrow it. That's a debt relationship, right? But equity, we can actually partner with somebody for that other $100,000, right? So let's just use a simple example here. Now, if I started an LLC and I put my deal, this whole deal is inside this LLC, and I give myself 50% ownership of this deal. I've left 50% ownership for someone who wants to bring in, and again, this is just simple numbers, right? I've left 50% ownership for someone that wants to bring in that other $100,000. Now that means that when the deal is done and the business that we've created, the LLC, has sold the deal, whatever the profit is, $45,000, I'm entitled to half of that as half owner, and my partner is entitled to the other half. So I would make $22,500 out of the 45, and my equity partner would make $22,500 out of the other half of the 45. Now let's do some quick math here, right? So quick math. $22,500. They put in $100,000, and when we sold the deal, they got back their $100,000 worth of capital plus $22,500 in profit, right? That's a 22.5% annualized rate of return. That is pretty freaking awesome. Excuse me, that's not an annualized, that's actual rate of return. And how long did it take us? Well, it took us about 4 months, right? So if we annualize that, there's 3 4 month periods in a year, times that by 3, that's 67.5%. Now, why am I willing to pay this equity partner so much higher of a rate of return than I am this debt guy who I thought was high in the first place? Well, it's value that they're bringing to the table, right? So the debt is risky for investors. Now, as an investor, I'm the investor in this relationship, right? My debt guy is a lender, my equity partner is a partner. I'm the investor. I'm the one that's operating this deal, right? So I'm the investor. To me, the investor, debt is risky because I owe that money back on the time frame that they dictated with interest, no matter what. He doesn't care that 2008 happened again. He doesn't care. He wants his money back with interest on the time frame that he dictated, no matter what. And so that's risky for me because I don't know what's going to happen, right? But if I can find partners who are like, hey, look, 2008 could happen again. And I'm willing to give you a higher rate of return, a much higher upside if you're willing to take some of that risk with me. And you know what? If we need to turn this thing into a rental, we can. If we need to hold on to it for a little bit longer to make sure that we're able to sell it at a profit, we can. But that's why these equity partners get a little higher rate of return, right? And it works very well. So let's look at this. So in theory, if I've raised my $200,000 from my debt lender, and I've raised the other $100,000 that I need from my equity partner, your equity partner might be looking at this and say, okay, so explain to me a little bit in greater detail what happens if 2008 type event happens again, right? So let's go back, let's look at it. So if 2008 happens again and we get a $100,000 haircut, now we're upside down. Remember, before the debt guy, he couldn't do anything, couldn't rent it out because he had short-term financing on it, right? He couldn't refinance because he was over leveraged. He borrowed more than the asset was worth. What didn't work for the debt guy now works for the debt equity blend because we set up multiple exit strategies ahead of time. We were preparing ourselves from any eventuality. And look, 99% of the time, 90% of the time, it goes as you expect it to go, right? But what about that other 10% of the time when it doesn't go as you expect it to go, right? And things change. Well, we need to prepare for that eventuality in every deal we do because none of us have a crystal ball. We don't know which ones are going to go weird and which ones are going to go perfect, right? So we have to prepare for that in every deal we do. That's why we structure everything that Maeli and I structure every fix and flip we do this way. So if 2008 were to happen again, we get a haircut here, we do have the option of refinancing. And why is that? Well, the reason is because in this case, we only got $200,000 worth of debt, not $300,000 worth of debt. Remember, that other $100,000 came from a partner that we brought in, right? So we have equity built into this deal. Now we can take this $280,000 worth of collateral down to the bank and refinance out our $200,000 loan with our $280,000 collateral. Now we are properly collateralized, right? So we can get rid of this debt guy, replace him with a 30-year mortgage, start making little payments, and we can rent it out, right? And our equity partner and myself, me and Maeli, we make cash flow all along the way. So we're making money all along the way while we're waiting for this asset to come back, and real estate always comes back, right? Historically, it's always come back. So when that comes back and is worth 380 again, it might take 2 years, it might take 5 years, it might take 10 years. But when it finally comes back and we've made cash flow every single month in between, we'll sell it. I make 22.5, equity partner makes 22.5. So now we've created a safety net for ourselves where we can convert if the unforeseen happens, and this keeps us much safer than if we structured our money in any other way. Now, obviously, in theory here, we only needed 300 grand. We've raised 200 in debt. We raised 100 in equity. So this property is 100% funded, and I didn't have to bring anything to the table in this deal, right? So in this particular deal, I brought $0 to the table, but my rate of return on I still made $22,500, right? So in this theoretical deal, my rate of return is infinite. Now, why do I get infinity percent on the deal, right? I feel like a third grader when I say I made infinity percent on this deal. Why do I get infinity percent on the deal? Well, the reason is because I brought a more valuable currency to the table. I brought knowledge to the table. I brought a strategy to the table where we're going to keep ourselves safe. Yeah, is it a bummer if it changes? Heck yeah, it's a bummer. It's always a bummer if it changes. But do we lose money if it changes? No. We're safe. We've got exit strategies. We can pivot, and we're safe, right? So the smartest guy in the deal, the smartest person in the deal, doesn't have to be guy or girl, right? Smartest person in the deal always makes the highest rate of return, because knowledge is a greater currency than money, right? So there you go. There's the debt equity blend. Now, I do want to point out that, right now, flips aren't as great of a strategy as they used to be, right? They were a great strategy for the last 2.5 years, but I think there's some better strategies in today's market, in the early 2023, late 2022, early 2023 market. Buy and holds are kind of the way to do it, right? So one way that this could be applied is it's also a great way to fund the BRRRR strategy, which the BRRRR strategy stands for buy, remodel, rent, refinance. Great way to structure that short-term money so that we can get money back out. When after we remodel it, we rent it out, and then we refinance it out into long-term financing, and we're able to get that done. So before we go into some of the more advanced stuff, because this was the basic stuff. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. That was the basic stuff. I know some of you have seen that before. Before we go into some of the more advanced stuff, do we have any questions? You guys feel free to come off mute here if you'd like to. If you're on Zoom, if you're on YouTube, plug it into the comments. Let's talk about this stuff for a second. So what does that look like? So any questions here? Going once, going twice. Does the formula change at all for a buy and hold? So Charlotte asks, does the formula change at all for a buy and hold? Debt being owner finance or long term, right? So we've got like a mortgage or a seller finance deal, right, that we're looking at. I'm thinking about the multiplex I spoke to you about. What is the reasonable expectation for return for an equity partner? Well, Charlotte, that depends on how much you're willing to give the equity partner, right? For me and Maeli, it's usually simply a ratio of the total amount we need to raise. So in that example, it was $300,000. Now, in that example, I said that we give them 50% equity. That's not necessarily true in real life, right? I use that as an example for training purposes. In real life, if it's $300,000, if they bring $30,000 to the table, that's 10% of $300,000. I'm giving them 10%, right? So 100% or $100,000, they're bringing 33% to the table. I would give them 33%. Now you're gonna have to run simulations on that model to see what it's worth to them. So, on a long-term deal, you usually have to give away a little more equity than you do on a short-term deal. So you may be closer to that 50% kind of mark, right? So I would just run those simulations and make sure that those things are making sense to you. How are hard money costs changing with the interest rates going up? That is a really good question, Tyson. It depends. It depends on where your hard money lender is getting their money from, right? Because if it's borrowed money, they got to mark it up. So interest rates are affecting those hard money lenders. If they're working off of a pool of cash, well, it doesn't change cash. Interest rates don't affect cash, right? Well, it does, but in a much different way, in a much more indirect way. So I've found that some hard money lenders are really jacking up their rates, and some are staying the same. So it really just depends. That's very subjective to who you're working with, right? It's a good question. Any other questions? Berta, did you have a question? Or were you just raising your hand from when I asked?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're just fine. Just making sure.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Let's see. Any other questions in here? Let's check YouTube real quick. Nope, doesn't look okay. All right. Well, let's move on, guys. One of the things that really, like, when I came in, learning how to structure the money is one thing, right? That's going to keep us safe. It's going to make us feel safer. It's going to make our potential equity partners feel safer if we know how to structure the money in a way that's going to protect everybody, right? And that's an important thing to have, but that doesn't necessarily mean, A, we're going to know where to find these people who have the money, or B, that we're going to get over our own freaking fear of how to talk to those people, right? So I wanted to share with you a couple different segments from much more qualified individuals than me. In fact, it's the people that I learned from as I went out and started building this in my own career. So I want to break into our vault of trainings here from the Renatus Education, and I want to share with you some of the amazing stuff that I was able to learn on both those topics. So first, I learned two questions that I think changed my career and set me on a much higher velocity trajectory in my investing career, because it allowed me to unlock the power of using other people's money. So the two questions that I learned is, number one, did you know that you can use your retirement account to invest in real estate? A lot of people don't know that. I didn't know that until I was taught that, right? But regardless of how they answer that question, if I could show you how I could double or triple your current rate of return backed by real estate, will you partner out with me on my next deal? Now, people got their 401ks and IRAs indexed in mutual funds making 6%. When I got them 62% in that hypothetical deal, was that double or triple? Abso-freaking-lutely, right? So as we start to talk to people, another thing that I learned around those two questions, there's $27 trillion in retirement accounts in this country. And there's only 400 million people who live here. So it's like there's a lot of people with six figures in their retirement accounts, right? So we can create a benefit for us, and we can create a benefit for them. It's a win-win. Let's go tackle this thing together, right? So if we're going to start playing with retirement accounts, and if we're going to start playing with other people's money, there are a lot of laws that we need to be aware of, because even if you accidentally break a law, you still broke a law, right? And you're still responsible for that. So there's a lot of things we need to be aware of as we go. I want to give you guys just a little kind of tease of that today. Hopefully you get some good value out of it. But let's go ahead and jump into our vault of trainings here. So share my screen. Let's get YouTube over there. All right, guys. So here's what we're going to do. Let's go into our course library here. Pull up our courses. In phase 1, Self-Directed IRA by Matt Sorensen. This is who I learned this stuff from, and he's so freaking good at explaining it. In fact, anytime nowadays, I kind of get my equity partners from kind of everywhere, but anytime I have somebody who's like, hey, I want to self-direct my 401k or IRA and I want to go do this stuff, I usually refer him to Matt because he's actually an attorney who does this for a living. So no better person to teach us than someone who's a professional at it, right? So let's pull this up, and I just want to watch this chapter with you.
All right, so I've mentioned this before, but really any type of real estate you can own. So like I own rental property in my self-directed retirement account. So I have a retirement account that actually owns an LLC 100%, and that LLC owns a rental property. I've done some private money, hard money lending out of the LLC as well. Mark, my partner who talks about this in his tax strategies class, he has a health savings account, which you can self-direct health savings accounts as well, that owns an LLC that owns his meth lab rental, as he refers to it in Chicago, right? And so you can self-direct all these accounts. You can self-direct Coverdell accounts, again, solo Ks. And so all these, I self-direct a Roth IRA and actually self-direct my 401k. So all these account types can be self-directed. And it can be single family rentals. You could put it into an LLC. It could be in tax liens. It could be in a flip. I've had clients, again, buy water rights and other commercial property. The one type of real estate you cannot buy, though, is your personal residence. Okay? Retirement accounts are meant to hold investment assets. While your home is kind of a quasi-investment, there are rules we're going to get into today called the prohibited transaction rules that restrict you from having use or benefit of your retirement account assets. So I can buy a rental property down the street from my house, fine, an investment asset, but I can't use my retirement account to buy my own home I'm going to live in. Okay? That would cause a prohibited transaction. So we're thinking about buying real estate for investment purposes when we're talking about a retirement account. All right, so here's the real estate investment process. This diagram here shows how you actually use your retirement account to buy real estate. Again, the first principle that we have here is I'm not buying the rental property personally. I've got a cute little blouse and hair bob going there, but I'm not buying the real estate personally, okay? I own an IRA. I might put money in my IRA. I might take distributions from it when I'm 59 and a half. Maybe I've got an old employer 401k. I rolled over to the IRA. But the IRA owns the property. The IRA is entitled to the property. The IRA is paid for it. The IRA gets the income. When the property sells, the IRA gets the gain on it, okay? And maybe I've got a property manager here. And we're going to go over an LLC that you could do to put in the middle here. But, okay, the IRA owns it. IRA is paying for it. IRA is getting the income, okay? Matt Sorensen does not own this property. My IRA owns the property, all right? So when I go to buy it, I'm going to go to my IRA custodian. Let's say I got a little directed IRA up there because that's what we do. There's like 25 other companies that do what we do that are kind of self-directed custodians. And, you know, you move your account to us, let's say, and I'll go through that in a minute here, and on just how that process works. And then the contract's going to be in the name of your IRA, but you don't sign it. You're going to approve it and send it to your IRA custodian and say, hey, I want you to buy this property with my IRA account. Send the $5,000 earnest money to title here. I've approved it. Your IRA custodian signs off on the contract, and then they'll wire the money in at closing and sign any closing documents required. And we're doing this every day at our company, Directed IRA, for clients buying real estate directly out of their IRA. Then there's rent checks that come in, and it could go directly to the IRA. It's not going to you, okay? It's going to your IRA. Or maybe if you have a property manager, it's going to your property manager who sends the cash flow then back to your IRA. So that's the basics of how it works. Your IRA owns it. Your IRA receives the income. And eventually you pull the money out at retirement by taking distributions. Now let's walk through some 3 common examples of assets and just the 3 most common deals we see people do with an IRA or any retirement account. And just so you know, I kind of have SDRP here, self-directed retirement plan. That is meant to be a generic term. That could be a Roth IRA, a traditional IRA, a SEP IRA, a health savings account, a solo 401k. I'm just using SDRP as a general term here. When we're talking about SDRP here, this means self-directed retirement plan. So this could be your health savings account. This could be your education savings account or ESA, Coverdell, Roth IRA, traditional IRA, SEP IRA, simple IRA. Okay, all those account types, solo K. I'm just using SDRP as a generic term. But the most common example here is just the rental property that I showed in the last diagram. Now, this is a common deal here. I had a client in Phoenix. This is an interesting, she came to me, she was like in her mid to late 60s, okay? And this is probably like 2011 or 2012. And she was really nervous because she had about 200 grand in an IRA that owned mutual funds. And she started getting her Social Security, and she needed about 400 or 500 bucks more a month to live off of. Like, Social Security wasn't cutting it, and she didn't want to go back to work, but she was draining her IRA. Like, every few months, she would have to sell a little bit of the mutual funds in her IRA to take a distribution to have some income to live off of. And she could see her account was dwindling, and she didn't like how it was going. So what she did was she said, I've done well in real estate over my life. I've had rental properties, and I'd rather just buy a rental. So that's what she did. So she sold her mutual funds. She went and bought a property in Phoenix for around 150 grand. It had monthly net rental income of about 1,200 bucks. So she was cash flowing about 14,400, and she bought it with cash from the IRA, no debt. We'll talk about how to use debt with an IRA a little bit later. Now, if you just look at the return on investment from a cash flow standpoint, it was 10.5%. Now, this property is also appreciated. This property in Phoenix now is probably 225 at least right now, because we've had such appreciation gain since she bought it. Also, I'll bet she's probably getting 1,500 bucks a month rent now, at least, as opposed to 1,200. So the rents can go up over time too. Now, she's not paying any taxes as that's growing in her IRA. She had a traditional. So she pulls these little, she's pulling out 500 bucks a month, which she has enough cash flow to cover that's coming through. And, now it's supplementing her Social Security. She didn't have to sell mutual fund shares to get that cash flow out. It still owns the real estate that's gone up in value. So for her, this was like this blessing of this, wow, I can actually do this. I can own an actual piece of real estate I can see and that has a check coming into me every month, as long as the tenants pay, of course, and you're picking good tenants, and that can go up in value. So this was like a no-brainer for her in going to rental. Now, again, she could use the income because she was already in her 60s. So she was able to pull that income out and actually live off of it to help supplement her Social Security. Now, for me, like I have rentals like this, kind of similar numbers in my retirement account. I'm just building up the cash flow to buy the next property, okay, or to do a next private money loan, which I've done out of my account too. So I'm not using this money to live off of. So if you're like in your 30s or 40s, or maybe, bless you, any that are in your 20s that are starting to do this already, you're so smart. But if you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, usually kind of where we see most self-directed clients, you're building your account up to buy more assets, to buy more real estate, to have a larger account so that you can take $5,000 a month or, $50,000 a month or whatever it is instead of 500 bucks a month out when you hit retirement. Okay, second example. If you're like, Matt, I've already know my investment types. I'm not a rental property guy. I want to just be the bank. I want to do notes. I want to do private money lending. I get it. So that's a very common self-directed investment strategy. So your retirement account can loan money, basically be the bank, and you're going to have a promissory note and a lien, like a deed of trust or mortgage secured against the property, and then you loan it to a third party who then uses it to do their real estate deal. One of the common uses would be you're funding the acquisition of a fix and flip, or you're funding the rehab costs on a fix and flip, or you're funding the acquisition and the rehab costs for someone else's fix and flip property. Okay? Now you can charge points and interest to do that. I have one client that started with about a $700,000 401k. He had a long-time corporate job. He was in his late 40s, early 50s. He maxed it out every year, and he left that company, kind of went into semi-retirement, was doing real estate. His account's now worth over $10 million. This guy I probably met about 12 years ago. This is all he did. He has loaned money at these types of rates. So he's been loaning at basically 12% interest and 2 points on 6-month term loans. He's just known in his community, he's in the Southwest area, as a private money lender. If you're doing fix and flip deals, he funds a lot of deals. He has a good deal flow. His money's always out, and he's getting 12% and 2% and 2% on the points. Now, he does something unique in that he charges a 12-month term for the percent of 12%. You have to pay it whether you use the money for the year or not. There's other weird strategies, but basically, private money lending is very common. Like, if you can loan your money at now, and rates aren't this high anymore. I don't know someone getting 12% on hard money anymore right now, just because of our rate environment right now. But let's say you're getting 8% or 10%. That's a pretty good return. Get it secured on the real estate. So if you're looking to use your own retirement account, I can just be the bank. I don't have to own the real estate. I can loan on other people's deals. Yeah. Get a promissory note. Get it secured on the property, right? What would the bank do if the bank loans someone money? They're going to check the credit of the person. They're going to make sure the deal appraises out for what the borrower says it is, and they're going to get a lien on the property, right? So go through those processes when you're loaning with your IRA too. So,
hey, Matt.
Yes.
We have a question from our online audience.
Yes.
And it says, can I convert from traditional to Roth IRA in small increments over several years rather than converting the entire traditional account all at once and paying taxes at a higher tax bracket?
Absolutely. So you can convert in what we call chunks, and we call this chunking it. This is inspired by the movie Goonies. Any Goonies fans? Remember Chunk?
Truffle Shuffle.
Yeah, the Truffle Shuffle. I'm not going to do the Truffle Shuffle if there's a request for that. But yes, you can do it in chunks. So let's say you had 150 grand in a traditional IRA, and you're like, man, I want to get to Roth, but I don't want to convert a whole 150 grand and have 150,000 go on my tax return for 2020. Like, that'll push me into a higher tax bracket. But if I only did 50,000 at a time and I did it over 3 years, then I'm only adding 50 grand a year. I'm staying in a lower tax bracket. So you could chunk it out like that over 3 years. And then we do that with a lot of clients. What I start doing right now is clients that want to do a Roth conversion. What I'm doing now is I'm usually saying, because it's kind of the end of the year now, is I'll say, all right, let's convert it. Let's convert at least half in 2020. And then January 1st, 2021, we'll convert the second half. So at least I can break it up over 2 years. That'll keep you generally in a lower tax bracket. Now, this has been something that's been unique for 2020. 2020 has been a rough year out there, and we have a lot of business owner clients in our office that have gotten hammered and are going to have a lot of tax losses this year.
Hold up there, because I want to share one more thing with you guys before we run out of time here. But and he's starting to talk about 2020. That's when this class was recorded. Usually Renatus re-records these classes every 12 to 18 months. So this one's probably due for it. But what did we learn? What did you guys take away from this? Is there something that was learned out of this that maybe one of you didn't know before about using other people's money, or where that money can come from? I mean, is there anyone out there who didn't realize that you can use other people's retirement accounts to fund your real estate deals? I hope so. I love when I shatter people's minds with this stuff. Yeah, Angela, go ahead and come off mute.
I didn't know that you could do that with your retirement.
Isn't that incredible? You can do it. You can do it with your own retirement. There's rules around, you can't, like Matt said, you can't do it on your personal residence. There's certain rules on what you can and can't do in a fix and flip. Like, you can't go swing a hammer in a fix and flip if it's yours that you're funding with your own retirement account. But let's say, you bring your retirement account and Coco goes and, you guys partner up and you go do a rental or a fix and flip. Like, Coco can totally execute the entire flip using your money, and both of you gain from it, right? So just like we talked about with the debt equity blend, self-directed retirement plans are a fantastic way to execute that debt equity blend, and they make great equity partners. So, alrighty. So the last thing I want to cover tonight, and then we'll open it up to general questions, is I want to talk to you guys a little bit about what it looks like to go and approach people. And I remember being scared about the idea of going to talk to people about money because we have this idea about asking family members and friends to borrow money, right? Like we don't want them to think that we're in a bad situation and it's going to be a burden to them. And we have all this crap that we tell ourselves that really isn't true in the world of real estate investing, because we're not coming to them begging for money. We're bringing an opportunity to them. Right, so I wanted to share just a little bit out of another class here. So I'm going to share my screen again, and let's dive back in. I think it'd be good for us to do a little bit of learning from, let's see, a little bit of learning from Whitney Stark. So let's get back to the course library. I'm just going to search private money. There it is, Whitney Stark. All right, teach us, Whitney. Let's see, chapter 37 is what I wanted to share with you guys today. Chapter 37, the fear of asking for money. Let's dive into this and then we'll open it up for questions. All right, Whitney. Back to the beginning here.
The fear of asking for money, right? Oh, guys, before I had, the first time even thinking about asking people for money was hard, right? That very first deal, though, that I told you about, where I simply went to the seller and was like, can you lend this? And they're like, yeah. It shouldn't have been that hard. They were totally willing, I didn't mean anyways, totally willing to lend, right? Yeah, it makes sense. They're like, yeah, we can do that. It is in our heads. It's how we see it. So let's think about it in a different way. We talked before, we're not looking for lenders. We're looking to solve people's problems, right? So if we can change that, you're not asking for money. You're providing an opportunity, okay? It's different. Suddenly it's not as scary. Because can they say no? Yes. Yeah, and it's okay. And if they know that you understand them and you care about them more than whether or not they lend with you, is it okay? You guys are still friends. You still care about them. You still want to get them to the Alps, right? Still want to help them do it. And maybe they have a problem. Not a problem. Maybe something that's important to them isn't monetary. Maybe they have a car that died and they just need a really good mechanic. And you can be like, oh, you know what? My friend Scott, he is killer on a car. And he can help you. Do you want his number? Well, they appreciate that. Absolutely. And maybe in 6 months, they'll remember you do real estate and they'll see that and they're like, oh, yeah, you know what? I'm in a different position right now. Can we talk about that again? Right? It's a relationship. They know you care about them. When you care more about them than the money, that's where the magic happens. So care about them. As you understand them, help them. And you can go in looking, I'm not asking for a lender. I really am just looking to help you because you are. You're providing an opportunity that can help them. Whether or not they say yes, you still thank them. You're still grateful for them. That's how you take care of people. That's how you are above board. That's how everybody around you will know you are an awesome person. You're going to take care of me. And not only will they take care of me, but the person you referred Scott to, I didn't give them a name, may even refer other people to you that are interested in real estate. There's been a number of times, I do a lot of foreclosures, and a number of times that I've helped people in foreclosure that I didn't get the deal. I still feel very fulfilled in helping them because I helped them find a solution that got them out of their problem. And they refer people to me. So it's not, oh man, I lost another deal. That was a lot of work. No, this is a relationship. This is someone that knows I care more about them than making the money. If I find a solution for them that is what works for them, I want them to have it. That will pay back way more than only giving me as an option, right? Because then they might feel taken advantage of. They might tell other people. They might find an attorney that tells them how greasy I am. And then, there's so many things. I don't have to worry about that because I know I care more about the other person, right? And I'm doing my best to take care of them. It's like a weight lifted I don't have to carry around because I'm trying to do my best that way. So that was a lot of words for you're not asking for money, you're providing an opportunity. Okay, you're helping them as much as they are helping you. You know, Aunt Susie wants to retire early. Are you really helping her retire early? Yeah. You know, that feels good. I can help you. Are they helping you at the same time? Yeah, this is a win-win. This is not a taking advantage of people at all. You're helping them build their wealth as they help you build your business, right? It's a win-win again. This one right here, I love this quote. Inaction breeds doubt and fear. As you sit back and think about all the things that can go wrong, does that get you down, right? But if you're out there talking to people and even maybe screwing up, but still keep going, inaction breeds doubt and fear. Action brings confidence and courage. We learn from what we do, right? If we go out there and do it, we're going to learn along the way. If you want to conquer fear, do not sit at home and think about it. Go get busy, right? Go get busy. I like that. Don't sit around and worry about it. Go get busy, guys. Like, go make it happen. That is the best way to get over being afraid, is to go out there, talk to them, care about them, offer them an opportunity, and wait for someone to say yes, you know? Still care about them, still connect them, still solve problems along the way, and you will be amazed at what comes back. The referrals that come back, the problems you solve along the way, it is awesome. Do things right, you know? Let's, again, help this whole real estate investor idea get put at a higher place where we take care of people instead of take advantage of people. So go get busy. All right. So we have another breakout. I would have you guys talk to that same exact person that you did, but this time use what you understand about them to ask for a meeting. We're going to ask for a meeting. You can use the same exact principle for asking to invest with you. So I understand that you want to ski the Alps. What did I say? I was trying to be awesome, not read it. I understand that you want to ski the Alps. I've been able to help a few people make a better return on their current investment. Would some extra money help you get closer to skiing the Alps? Would be open to a conversation, right? Using what you know they care about and saying, I can help you this way if it goes that direction, if it works, right? It won't always be monetary, but if it's something that you can help them get closer to by giving them a better return, throw it in there. Or the other one, I totally understand wanting to retire early. If I could double or triple your return, would you be open to a conversation? It does not have to be a push it in their face, a, hey, do you want to invest with me? I can help you. You know, just, is this something you're interested in? We'll give them the opportunity to think about it. They might not be interested initially, but it may come back again later. That's actually what happened with my soccer thing, right? Kind of told him about it. I didn't really push it. He asked again, didn't push it. Suddenly he calls me. I was thinking about that. You know, don't be pushy. It can happen. So we'll do a quick break at home. Go ahead and call that person you just asked. Tell them again you're just practicing and you're wondering if you could ask them some questions.
All righty. Let's break into this thing. So, we got people joining last minute here. We're about to end the call, but I'm always happy to have more people on here. So let's pull it back here. Okay, so I loved that quote that Whitney shared. Am I still sharing my screen here? I need to get... where are we at? There we are. Okay. Couldn't find my Zoom window for a second. So I love that quote that Whitney shared by Dale Carnegie. You know, we can sit at home and we can, like, you know, just kind of stew on all the reasons why this isn't going to work or why we're not capable of doing it, or we can get out and start taking action, right? And a lot of you I've talked to about this concept of we're going to suck at stuff until we get good at it, but that's human nature, right? We're gonna have to go out and start trying new things that we haven't done before. We're gonna have to get out of our comfort zone, which I call that the growth zone. There's two zones. There's inside your comfort zone and there's outside. The outside part is your growth zone. We got to get in the growth zone, and we're gonna kind of suck at talking to people about raising funds for a little while until we practice it enough to where we build that confidence, Getting out and taking action builds confidence. And as we build that confidence, we are going to get better and better and better at it until it happens, right? So we've got to start that process somewhere. We've got to be okay with sucking at it for a little while until we can go out and actually make it happen. So guys, I hope this has been of value to you today. I hope that you've gotten some ideas on not only how to structure money so to keep yourself and your equity partners safe, to keep those deals safe, and to mitigate risk as a real estate investor. I also hope that you have learned some areas that you can reach out and start, finding new ways and new avenues to bring in those equity partners. And then also, I hope that this has helped you get over the fear of going out and doing that yourself. Now, we're going to open it up to questions for just a few minutes here, and then we'll wrap up the call. So if you have any questions, YouTube, feel free to put them in the comments. Zoom, if you want to put them in the chat, or I'd prefer if you just come off mute. Let's talk. It looks like we got one from Micah already. He said, besides family and friends, where do you find people who have these IRAs? Is there a group or community that they belong to? Micah, it's everybody. Anybody who works a W-2 job, right? Anybody who works for corporate America, most corporate America jobs provide 401ks and IRAs. And as people start getting closer to retirement, or if people have changed jobs, if they were with the same job for 10 years and then they got laid off, or they quit and they went to a different job, their 401k from that previous job follows them. It just goes dormant. And you can you can approach them and be like, hey, that dormant 401k, remember when you worked for Microsoft for 10 years and you had that awesome 401k? Well, where is it? And they're like, oh, well, it's just dormant. I haven't done anything. I don't know what to do with it, right? Well, I know what to do with it. Let's self-direct that sucker. Why don't you call Matt Sorensen? Let's get that thing self-directed, and let's go partner on some real estate, right? So it has to be a self-directed IRA and not traditional. Well, so it can start out traditional, right? It can start out as one of those corporate IRA. Like worked at Apple or Microsoft, or you worked at Tesla, or you worked at Dell Computers, or you worked wherever. It can start out that way. Self-direction is just an election that works on on any retirement account. It works on IRAs. It works on 401ks. It works on Roth or traditional. It works on HSAs. So if someone's got a giant HSA, you can be like, hey, let's build this thing. You become your own insurance company, right? One of the goals that Maeli and I have as we build generational wealth for our children and for our grandchildren, is that we want HSAs set up with a portfolio of rental properties that fund that HSA on a monthly basis. Not only will those HSAs, remember, it's owned by the retirement account, not by us, not by our kids. It's owned by the HSA. So all of the appreciation that happens, all the equity that's being built, all the cash flow that happens, all goes back into the HSA tax-free. And then when the kids grow up and they have families and they've got medical expenses that come up, they've got a portfolio of rentals that have super funded their HSA account. They'll never have to worry about any medical expenses ever, right? That's one of the goals that Maeli and I have that we're working on. I can tell Maeli wants to add something to that.
I mean, that's it, right? I think that the first thing that made me go, oh my gosh, right? Like, what? First off, how did I not know any of this? Like, where's this been my whole life? But for all the people that I know too, they don't know that you can do this. Like, this is not, if I bring this up to anyone, they're like, wait, what? Like, for the most part, right? If you're already investing and you're doing stuff, maybe you already knew, right? That's great. But to the level of this is just like, it's so incredible. But for real, if you think about it, what's the most expensive thing that you will ever pay for after you're 65? For sure, without a doubt, it is going to be your health care. I've already had, I might as well be an 80-year-old woman with all the back surgeries I've had, right? Already I've spent more in health care than most people probably, right? And I'm considered a young person. So a health savings account is going to drastically change somebody's life. And being able to have it tax-free, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful that we can have rentals for each of our kids. It just keeps, and I think that a miscommon thing, and I think they covered it obviously just a minute ago, but Matt did, but most people think, oh, well, yeah, but you can only grow it so much every single year. That is not true if it's growth. You can only
You can only
contribute.
contribute. Yeah.
You can only contribute X amount, you know, like $3,500 or whatever a year. That's fine. Yeah, that's true. But growth
Is unlimited.
there is no limit to growth, and it's all tax free, all of it. Right? Like, what? How do we not know about this? Anyway, that's all I have to say. I love you.
I love you. That's awesome. Yeah. So, you know, it really is. It's an awesome strategy. It's an awesome strategy for yourself. You know, for your own directed accounts. You know, your own 401k, your own IRA, your own HSA. Awesome strategy for that. But it's also a great way to bring capital in to your deals from the outside, right? Using other people's 401ks and IRAs and HSAs and all of those things. Now, again, you need to know the rules, right? I mean, I'm gonna show this to you guys. Let me share my screen one more time here. So if we get back into, make sure YouTube can see it. Let's see. Get back into. Let's go back to the class that Matt taught. It's in our essentials. There's the guy right there. All right, so I played chapter 7 for you, right? That was chapter 7. It was about 13 minutes. Look at all these other chapters, like course expectations, invest in what you know, mega IRAs, account types, right? Part 2 of self-directed retirement plans, getting to self-directed. So like the process of actually changing over from your employer IRA to your self-directed IRA, like Micah asked about. There's a whole chapter on that. Account transfer options, prohibited transactions 1 and 2, right? Loans, prohibited transactions 3, question and answer, unrelated business income tax, IRA LLCs. So now we can create LLCs where we're, you know, having entire portfolios inside of our IRAs and our 401ks, solo plans. You know, I mean, there's just so much. There's, you know, legalities. Like, we need to understand these prohibited transactions. If we're using other people's retirement accounts, there's rules around that, right? So we need to make sure that we're understanding how to keep ourselves safe and how to protect the people's money who, you know, if we're using their money, like, we want to protect them. Like Whitney talked about, this isn't about taking advantage of people. This is about helping people, right? This is about rising tide raises all ships, right? This is about providing value. And you want to be the kind of real estate investor that has a reputation for providing value to people. So Charlotte has a question. Charlotte asked, what is the process? Is it as strict as 1031? It's a very different process. There are many, many rules around it. For example, one of the rules I will share with you, Charlotte, is you can't. So if you think of your family tree, you can't interact with. One prohibited transaction is lending or equity partnering with somebody on the trunk of the tree, your parents or your kids. You can't borrow from your parents. You can't lend to your parents. You can't borrow from your kids. You can't lend to your kids, right? However, you can lend to your uncle. Any of the branches, you can lend to your uncle. You can lend to your nephew. You can lend to your niece or your aunt, right? But you can't go straight up or down in your genealogical tree. So one example of prohibited transactions, right? So there are processes, there are things to know to make sure that you're not. So one of the questions you asked earlier, Charlotte, was, you know, don't I have to pay interest if I'm taking money out of my 401k to do this? Well, technically, yes. If you pull the money from inside the 401k and take it outside of the 401k and use that money personally, you don't have any of the rules, but you do have the penalties of pulling that money out. However, what Matt is talking about is actually making those investments inside of your IRA or your 401k. So the money never leaves. So there's no taxable event, there's no penalties, but there are rules. And you need to be familiar with those rules. That's why there's 40 chapters in that class, and we only got to watch one because of time constraints today. But you know, there are things around those rules that we have to be really careful about. You don't want to end up in handcuffs because you were trying to do a real estate deal, right? That's not what we want. So, is it as complicated as a 1031? Yes, but in very different ways. Good
Which
question.
is why you just hire a professional to make that transaction.
Yeah, you're not going to be doing this stuff on your own. Most people that are dealing with self-directed 401ks and IRAs, I just give them. Oh, here's your question: who do I hire? Matt Sorensen, the guy you just saw on the screen. You can Google him. He's Mark Kohler's partner, so he's at KKOS. Kohler's one of the K's, and S is the Sorensen, right? Matt Sorensen, who you just saw. KKOS, he's an amazing dude. Tell him I sent you, and he'll take care of you, for sure. Good questions. All right, any other questions before we wrap this thing up? Hopefully this was good stuff. Did you guys get value? I want to know who got value out of this. Give me some sort of like hallelujah or thumbs up or, you know, emoji with the sunglasses. Give me something. Let me know if you got value out of this today. Okay, now we're starting to see it. All right, clapping hands. Well, Charlotte got some. Oh, Heidi, good. Glad you got it. Jordan, welcome, my friend. We need to hang out soon. I know I owe you a text message on that. Let's do it. All right, Sasha, Leela, everybody's getting. That makes me happy. That's why I do this. I want to hopefully, Maeli and I want to provide value to you guys, and we love it when we find a topic that everybody's interested in and that everybody can get value from. So, guys, thank you so much. Oh, Coco gave us the what is that called? Bones? Fist pound? Yeah, awesome. Good.
Fist bump.
Fist bump. There it is. Thanks, Coco. Tyson. Ooh, some good questions. Denise said she was late, but she learned something new. Good. Josh said, I learned you can use an HSA. Yeah. So Tyson asks, how much money do you need in an HSA or an IRA to get started here? Tyson, that is a really good question. I want to throw a hypothetical at you, okay? Do you remember at the beginning of the call, we talked about our debt equity blend? And it was the example of we used an equity partner and brought in outside money, right? And then the last line item was me. And I brought in $0. All I brought in was the idea of the knowledge of how to structure it safely and get the deal done, right? And that's the value that I brought to the table. But because of that, I could bring $0. That doesn't have to be you. That can be your 401k, your IRA, and it can technically have, if that line item is, debt partner, debt lender, equity partner, and Tyson's IRA with $0, it could be zero. And your IRA can go get the deal done. And you can structure equity partnerships, right? There's rules you have to follow. This is a little more advanced strategy of what I'm getting into now. But what if you were able to go buy a rental property that was seller financed with someone else's money, or $0 down, and now you've got it inside your Roth IRA, you're making tax-free cash flow that you get to enjoy in retirement, right? With $0 out of your IRA. Now all of a sudden your IRA grew from zero. You've never contributed to it because that's the taxable event, right? You've never contributed. It just started growing because of knowledge, right? How awesome is that? So Tyson also asks, can my HSA partner with my IRA? I have no idea. I don't know. I've never tried it before. You're going to have to ask attorney, probably ask Matt Sorensen. It's the honest truth. I would imagine so. I think as long as you follow the rules that are in place, unless one of the rules is your HSA can't partner with your IRA, then in that case I would imagine is no. But yeah, you have to do a little more research on that. Coco, what's up?
What's up? I actually learned from Matt and Mark that you can partner, like your IRAs. I can partner my IRA with my kids' CISA, with their IRAs, with their HSAs. You just have to create a multi-member LLC.
There you go. There's your answer. I love it.
Thank you.
And no better source than Matt and Mark, right?
Yeah.
I love it. That's awesome. Good questions, guys. Good questions. I love it. Let's check YouTube. Ooh, lots of celebration going on YouTube. I love you all. That's awesome. Stephanie, mind blown. Good. I told you, lay down plastic, right? We're going to make a mess. That's awesome. Good deal. 2 new messages here. Value in the community too. Absolutely. Absolutely. Ooh, Leela says, love you, Coco. Passing notes in class. I love it. That's allowed here. It's fine. Okay, guys.
Love you back.
I love it. Well, guys, hopefully you got a ton of value out of that. Sounds like you did. So, mission accomplished. We're going to be back here next week. Don't forget about our masterclass in Idaho Falls. Guys, it's not as far away as it sounds. I know in Utah, if we have to drive 20 minutes, it's like, we're freaking out, right? Other places in the country like LA, 20 minutes is no big deal. Well, it's only about 2 hours away from me and Maeli and Layton. If you're in Salt Lake, like 2.5 hours. Charlotte and Albuquerque, it's only like 12-hour drive. So, come on up. Hop in the car. Let's make a weekend of it. I know it's the day before Mother's Day, which is a bummer, but we're going to get some good value from Chris Wilson, who was the guest speaker last week on this same call. So you're going to get to hear from Chris Wilson at our Wealth Summit. You're going to want to come join that. A lot of you might qualify to get that for free. So reach out to me and Maeli. Let us know if that's something that you're interested in. We would love to have you guys be a part of that. See, yeah, Coco drove to Rexburg and back in the same day. This isn't even as far as Rexburg. It's like 2 freeway exits before Rexburg. So, it's not even as far. So, it's going to be worth it. I promise. It's good stuff. All right, guys, that's all we've got for you tonight.
Well, I have an announcement.
Oh, Maeli has an announcement.
So we have so many wonderful women on here tonight, and because we are celebrating women this month of May, we are going to be doing a really fun celebrating women tea party. The announcements will be going out tomorrow, but if you would like to be part of our tea party, we're all going to be wearing hats and get all dolled up and have some really just amazing. Yes, right? Oh, I know, you're so excited too. So reach out to me. Everyone should have my number. If you don't, you should. So reach out to me and let's get this excited. If you want to help participate or if you have any really good ideas, I'd love some love and help with the event. But we're thinking, it will be May 20th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. So save the date right now in your calendar, and then you'll get the invite tomorrow afternoon. Okay? I'm excited.
You guys, you're not going to want to miss that. Again, YouTube, I didn't take myself off mute fast enough. Dane Clark's going to be back here next Wednesday, 7 p.m. You're not going to want to miss it. Mark your calendars. We're going to be back here every single week doing the same call. We love you guys. We love being here. So please come join us. Guys, stay healthy, stay happy, stay hungry to get out and do some real estate. Love you all. Have a great night. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.